before Verivest brought this service to the industry, what are those challenges that investors used to be exposed to, and how have you guys solved for those?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge is that for passive investors, they were sort of limited to, looking at investment opportunities from the people they already kind of knew, liked, and trusted. And so, but of course, with the internet, everyone's realized that there's far more opportunity out there. And so I think it's really brought to head the fact that, on the internet, you can see somebody and their strategy sounds interesting, and you can get your mind wrapped around the opportunity, but the issue is that you don't know them. You may never have met them, face to face. And so in a highly fragmented market, like, commercial real estate investing, there's not a bunch of household names, right? So as an investor, you just don't know who you can trust. So, pre-Verivest doing what we do, that was really where the friction was that you really had to take this additional leap of faith, or spend a lot of extra time, effort, and energy conducting some version of a due diligence process, which, even when you attempted to do that, you probably, walked away from it not feeling like it was thorough enough.
Yeah. So how did you guys solve for that? And then how does that change the investor's experience?
Yeah. So I think based on a lot of feedback I got from investors, sort of if you could wave a magic wand, what would you do? And I think the consistent things that came up were, I wish I could run background checks on the principals, right? It's, it seems doable, but it is kind of awkward to do that. And you don't know the difference between certain background checks. So that was one thing. The second thing was, verifying the track record, because many people purport to have these proven track records of all this great stuff they've done, but not having a way to sort of verify that. So they're like, I wish I could like verify that as fact, not as, well, I think I kind of believe you. And I think the third thing, and the big one for many of them, was just when things are going well, an investment they've made, they always have this feeling that maybe they've invested into a Ponzi scheme, right? Like, and then, so it's this whole thing is just like you invest and then you're just, paranoid and freaking out the entire time that you're investing, so you don't have that peace of mind. So that was the big piece. They just wished that they would know and had greater certainty that, all the money was going where it's supposed to be going and everything's being done above board. So those are the consistent things that I heard. So, from our perspective is sort of back office administrators, many of those things we were already doing for our clients, but the background checks and the verifying the track record seemed like a great next step. So those are the things that we do. We put you guys through that. We ran background checks on you and Nate, and we'll do so every year. You guys have signed a code of conduct, which basically says, hey, we're going to always do the right thing when no one's looking. And if something were to come up, we'll notify you. And, the last piece, is really we do all the fund level accounting for, your investments. So, we look at all your property level financials, we're making sure that everything is what it should be on a monthly basis. And so, I think that's, it gives people the peace of mind and assurance, especially that these assets are real and they're not just made up, and, that all the money's going where it should go.
They're actually making cash flow and it's actually rolling up to the fund level.
Yeah. And then it's not like cash from the investors you just sold, like last week, it's not their money. It's actually money that the tenants or the residents of the parks, paid to you guys. That's what they're hoping, and not proceeds from some other investor.
Talk about real quick about what Verivest Gold is and what that includes and how that separates your Verivest Gold clients from others.
Yeah. So, one of the things we ran into here, right, was that it's one thing to run a background check and to verify the track record, but, the last thing we wanted to have happen was where someone would show up and then say, well, we've done all these deals which you verified, as of this point in time, but, and then they list one of their new opportunities on our website, which people invest money into. The thing that we didn't want to have happen was where all the other deals that they had. For all we know, yeah, we made sure that you did them. But if we're not monitoring the rest of your deals, for all we know, you're running Ponzi schemes, and misappropriating funds, all of these other investment vehicles. So for us, because in this business, as you know, Jack, I mean, most sponsors run around and they want to tell you how much assets under management they have, how much real estate they control is sort of the vanity metric. And so for us, I understand why it's important. It's sort of social proof. But for us, we felt like for those that are really, really committed and engage us to monitor their entire portfolio, like all their holdings, right? That's sort of other level stuff, because that means that we have a purview into the entire enterprise. And that means that, we see all the money going in and out of everything, and know that everything's being done above board, not just on the select one deal that, that they put on our website. So what gold means is that 100% of the investor capital that's at risk is those investment vehicles where it's present is being monitored on an ongoing basis by Verivest.
Yeah, and that's what it means when it says 100% monitored.
Yeah, and that if you're 100% monitored, then you become verified gold, Verivest verified gold. I think the other thing that's important to point out here is that we also have other clients that just aren't at the point where they're able to report quarterly, which I know sounds odd and weird to some people, but they just don't have that level of maturation in their organization yet where they can do that. And that so for us is a bit of a forcing function, right? Like you need to get to the point when you can report at least quarterly to your investors, which means, preparing, financial statements quarterly. Now, many people operate a property, but they might not, sort of be willing to publish the results of those financials because they're not really, finished. And, it's sort of like a never ending, and they do it once a year. So for us, we feel like that's not really sufficient. So this is a way that gets some of those operators to the point where they make that additional investment of time, effort, and energy to get to the point where they're reporting quarterly, like you guys do. I mean, you do it monthly, you've got the cadence. And I think you should be rewarded for that. And of course, that's what makes it doable for us to actually monitor it, is to make sure that, because on a financial statement, everything has to tie out, right? Like the bank reconciliation that needs to tie out to the balance sheet, right? And so that's what we're looking at, is we're making sure that all these things foot and they all sort of reconcile with one another, because that's how people commit fraud, right? Is that they sort of forge, documents and sort of, plug things in and then they pass them off. But if you're an accountant, like people on our team are, you can tell that either they're hiding something or they're inept, right?
Yeah.
And neither of them are good. So, for us, we feel like it's a good benchmark, something to, strive, to achieve. And I think it's helping kind of everyone up their game across the entire industry.
Yeah, well, I think from a sponsor's perspective, I mean, there's a lot of value that service. I mean, I love the idea that you guys are like a neutral party referee.
Yeah.
So, it's the outcome is the outcome, and it's being reported exactly as it occurred, and it's very transparent. But it's also the case that, if we attempted to do this in-house, with spreadsheets and those kind of things, like there's a potential for inaccuracy. So, allows us to stay focused on the assets and moving the needle on the performance of the properties, and leave, this transparent reporting to you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that it's investing in building, a robust back office to track things of this complexity is expensive and time consuming. And to your point, I mean, it becomes a distraction for, an emerging, investment manager and fund managers like yourselves, like anyone in your position. And so I think that that's the dual benefit, right? Is that allows guys like you to sort of outsource to someone who can, do it the right way, who's already built the infrastructure, verifies, makes sure it's accurate, gives the peace of mind to the investors knowing that everything is as it should be. But it just lets you guys focus on executing the strategy. And ultimately, that's what's going to drive and create the most value for, the limited partners and the investors, is if you guys are focused on executing the business plan for each of the, underlying assets.